SpongeBob's Deepest Episode, video by Scub. Now, I won't lie, I probably speak for quite the majority of us when I say we've all come to that realization on just how much or just how many hidden jokes or hidden meanings, let alone the adult jokes these animators used to throw into these cartoons that we used to watch back in the days. Oh my days, dude. It was honestly something that no modern day cartoon industry could replicate. It was honestly special. But hey, I'm pretty sure Scub is gonna cover most of this in the video, and without further ado, let's get into it.
These are 3 of SpongeBob's deepest episodes. Watch till the end if you want to see just how far a kid's show can go. The first episode starts with SpongeBob, who had woken up that morning as he usually did, but this was no usual morning. Something strange had happened the night.
Real quick, I just gotta say, SpongeBob, easily one of the greatest shows anyone could ever experience in their childhood. It was definitely one of them ones, well, in my take at least. And you know what's so crazy? Some of the conspiracy theories I've heard about this show, apparently Bikini Bottom, where the show is based, was what was left of a nuclear bombing test site, and the radiations are the cause of why there's talking fish and so much weird stuff down there, like also the monsters. And for example, what gives it away? Sandy Cheeks, which is a squirrel that's a scientist. Apparently she was a part of this science company which sent her down to study the effects and aftermath of, you know, all the weird stuff that happened because of those nuclear radiations. It's honestly insane, and yeah, low-key kind of makes sense if you think about it.
Before, though we did not know what yet. But whatever happened somehow did not affect SpongeBob. It did, however, affect everyone else. At first, SpongeBob didn't notice that something was wrong. In fact, he went through his daily routine as usual, having even worked a full day at the Krusty Krab. But as he got home that evening, he noticed that Gary hadn't touched his food. And soon after, he discovered that Gary wasn't home. Then he checked up on Squidward and Patrick.
Like
No one was home. He ran around panicking all over Bikini Bottom in hopes of finding any sign of life. But nothing. The town was empty.
Yo, growing up is realizing that the more you grow up, the more you're like Squidward. Honestly, nowadays, if there was somebody like SpongeBob in my life, always just overhyped and overstimulated, goddamn, I'd also probably take a day off and definitely disappear from that guy. Like, just, you know, here and
For
there.
Bikini Bottom in hopes of finding any sign of life. But nothing. The town was empty and he was all alone. But why wasn't SpongeBob gone? Rather than searching for answers, SpongeBob's first instinct was to distract himself by living out everyone's life for them. Basically to pretend he wasn't alone. A mistake which would take him down a dark road. The next day he did just that. But after a while, reality started to hit him. Pretending wasn't enough to distract him, for he knew that something bad had happened. He didn't know what it was or if his friends were hurt, but once again, instead of facing reality, SpongeBob ignored it and stole a boat and took it for a joyride instead, which he eventually crashed into his house. When he woke up the following day, the boat was now sleeping on his bed, which was weird, because that's not where it crashed the night before. I don't believe that this actually happened. I believe this was all a figment of his imagination, which, as we'll see soon, was only the start of it. Now, having no job to do and nobody to see,
Damn. I gotta commend the creators or the animators as well for just the storylines and plots on these episodes. It's something that everybody could relate to. Like, who would have thought SpongeBob would teach you life lessons about feeling lonely or living in solitude? And, well, here's the thing. They'd also throw in a lot of BS. Like, there would be a whole lot of shenanigans happening in the background. But nah, the plots and what was happening, I feel like, was definitely relatable to an extent.
SpongeBob spent the day becoming friends with this boat. Again, by no means was the boat alive, but this was the closest SpongeBob was gonna get. The boat and SpongeBob became quite close. SpongeBob had even began hearing voices coming from it. These delusions only got worse from here. When he got home that evening,
I was about to say, so is it like SpongeBob being comfortable and being best friends with his delusions of thinking how being alone or living alone is actually something that probably most of us have also thought is like really cool and peaceful.
Only thing keeping him sane. But the boat, or in this case, part of his subconscious, said something completely unrelated. Something about a Patrick puppet built from Krabby Patty meat, which sounds really crazy. So it was no surprise SpongeBob just brushed it off. But the boat wasn't talking nonsense. SpongeBob had secretly built this puppet, which he hid in his closet. SpongeBob was so lonely, a fact which he didn't want to admit, that he resorted to this just for some sort of connection. But the puppet said something even weirder. It warned him that the boat wasn't what it seemed, and that it was not his friend.
Hold on. What's a box of Krabby Patty meat doing at SpongeBob's house? This nigga. SpongeBob's a thug. He used to steal items from his workplace just to come and make meat mannequins. Oh my gosh, I do not want to know what weird, crazy stuff you used to get down to.
What made this even crazier was that Puppet Patrick seemed to be right. The boat was acting a bit weird now. This paranoid SpongeBob, leaving him with no choice but to hide in his own home for days, until eventually he ran into the boat again. Immediately he ran out screaming. But wherever he went, the boat somehow found its way there. After running for a while, he found an axe, which he was ready to use to destroy the boat, which he still believed to be alive. But before he could, a bus pulled into Bikini Bottom filled with every single person who had gone missing. Where'd they gone? They had all left to take a break from SpongeBob. They called it National No SpongeBob Day. SpongeBob...
I'd be so hurt. Even your best friend? What? Nah.
Bob was naturally shocked, but he didn't even get angry. He was actually happy that they made a day dedicated to him, ignoring not only what they put him through, but what they were actually doing during No SpongeBob Day. The episode ended with the town leaving again, this time for National No Patrick Day, leaving Patrick behind to start the whole cycle over. I put this episode on the list because it did a good job at showing how flawed SpongeBob is as a character. He is so desperate for connection that the very loss of it drove him insane. But this isn't just relevant to SpongeBob. Humans are all social creatures, and having that suddenly stripped away from you could very well lead to a complete loss of character.
Yeah, facts. I feel like everybody in the world was not meant to really live in solitude. Well, debatable on some other characters. There are some weird people who do things on islands which should probably be locked up in mental asylums. But for real, the longer you feel lonely, or the longer you're alone, like you definitely feel a certain shift in just how you think and your lifestyle. It can definitely take a darker turn, but they definitely did a good job on explaining it in this episode.
The next episode on the list is Squidville. Squidville starts with SpongeBob and Patrick, who were outside playing with their new reef blowers. As it usually did, their playtime found its way to Squidward, or in this case, to his house, which was accidentally damaged, and eventually fully destroyed after Squidward yelled at them to fix it. This snaps...
Nah, guys, to be honest, whoever put together Squidward as a character, nah, they definitely knew the pains and hell of adulting. Especially being neighbors with two idiots like this. Oh my days, dude. Yo. It was so entertaining though. Like, I'd definitely say every episode with Squidward in it, banger.
Something inside Squidward. He didn't yell at them. Instead, he accepted defeat. But this was the last time he'd tolerate it, because for once, he was going to do something about it, which more or less involved him getting as far away from SpongeBob and Patrick as he could. As he made up his mind, his TV fell from the sky and played an ad for a secluded, gated community called Tentacle Acres, a place which Squidward believed would free him from all that made his life miserable. A belief which, as we'll find out, was not true at all. Having nowhere else to go, he went over that same day. After answering a few questions, the gates of Tentacle Acres welcomed him inside. Now you're probably thinking, why is this episode called Squidville when the place is called Tentacle Acres? Well, this place was entirely populated by squids, which not only looked exactly like Squidward, but did the same things he did. Finally, he had found his real home. He had found...
Oh my gosh, I feel like life would be so boring. Like, I'm not in the sense of I don't like myself, but imagine being stuck with, or you just live among a society that's damn near exactly like you. Like, there's no diversity. There's like everything's just one and the same. Cause, cause you know what you like, and eventually, with no one to share your interests with like that, or express yourself in different types of ways, everything would just get boring, wouldn't it?
On his people. He immediately fell in love with Tentacle Acres. After his first night there, he woke up having already forgotten his old life. He went shopping, he rode his bike, he danced, he played his clarinet, all with the rest of the community. And best of all, not a sponge or starfish in sight.
Like, yeah, it would feel all nice and cool within the first couple of days, or even weeks. But eventually, I feel like it would just start getting repetitive.
He could live like this for eternity, but if you're expecting that, you'd be wrong. He enjoyed his first day there, and nothing ever changed from it. You could say he lived that same day over and over and over again.
Yeah,
As I said,
exactly.
nothing at all changed, except for one thing. As the days went on, his smile slowly faded. But by God, why? What else could he ask for? He had everything he'd ever dreamed of having. Squidward asked himself this question. He clearly started to hate his new life at Tentacle Acres.
I feel like that's why, as people, you don't truly value something as much until you realize the cost of losing it. Well, in this case, it might be different, but it's like if you're always having fun with a certain hobby, let's say if it's making music, and it's easy to make music every day, then it's not gonna be as sentimental, it's not gonna be as special compared to if you have to, find a specific time and go through certain trials and tribulations to be able to make music the way you actually want to. That's what makes everything, that's what makes the special things in our lives special. The fact that they're not so easy to obtain. Am I right?
And he soon found out why. He knew this place was the very definition of Squidward's paradise, but it was also too much paradise. There was no change, there was nothing to look forward to anymore. Once the opportunity presented itself, Squidward crept around the reef blower and played with it. As squids do, they mocked him. His own people mocked him. SpongeBob and Patrick never did that, but he didn't let mockery stop him. In fact, he doubled down. He went all around Tentacle Acres with the reef blower. Meanwhile, SpongeBob and Patrick showed up at the front gate, hoping to bring Squidward home. Behind the gate, Squidward continued having fun, which annoyed all the other squids in the process, eventually turning them all against him. After they cornered him, they gave him a letter of complaint, which once again made something in Squidward snap. He finally understood that these weren't his people at all. Sure, they looked like him, they basically were him, but they didn't like him at all. These were his people. These people actually liked him. And so Squidward, who had now gone a bit too far, used his reef blower to
Damn, the double meanings or double lessons in this episode specifically are crazy. The way they put this together, I'm getting a sense of how no matter how much people might think you're weird in terms of the things that you do, like you honestly shouldn't give two shits. Kind of like how you might think the right thing to do is to blend into society, do one and the same thing of what everybody does. But then eventually you're gonna realize just how much that sucks. And the best thing in life is honestly to just go crazy and do exactly whatever you want to do. If it's taking a leaf blower and, fooling around with a leaf blower, go for it. But to an extent, of course, do not start violating people because you think you can do absolutely anything. That's how you get locked up and listed on the most wanted by the CIA.
fly out of that prison as he laughed manically. A prison which, at the start, he so much enjoyed. Tentacle Acres was built for Squidward. More importantly, this place was supposed to prove that SpongeBob and Patrick were what was wrong with his life. But it didn't. His new life in Squidville showed us that this was the furthest thing from the truth. In fact, it showed that he himself and everyone like him was the problem. What's more is that playing his clarinet or riding his bike was no longer something he could look forward to, because he could have it whenever he wanted. He took away the process of earning pleasure, and therefore, he lost it. Now let's move on to what I consider to be the deepest SpongeBob episode. It was another beautiful day in Bikini Bottom. Squidward took his opportunity to relax. He pulled out a lawn chair and a piece of gum, whose wrapper he threw on SpongeBob's lawn. Something which, for some reason, really stunned SpongeBob. SpongeBob immediately picked it up and tried returning it. SpongeBob wasn't shocked because Squidward had littered. He was shocked that he'd throw away something this valuable. There was nothing special about the wrapper, by the way. What made it so important was that SpongeBob didn't see a simple wrapper. He saw a treasure trove of entertainment.
Oh my gosh, is this gonna be like how one man's treasure's another man's treasure?
Squidward let him have it just to get rid of him, but SpongeBob kept asking him if he wanted it back. Eventually, Squidward told him to not only keep the paper, but to never give it back to him under any circumstance, to further get him off his back, words which he'd later eat. You see, like most of us, Squidward saw the paper for what it was on the outside, a piece of paper. Since he couldn't relax out,
Like, bruh, these creators got philosophical. Is that how you say it? Sorry, y'all are gonna need to excuse me with my English sometimes. But honestly, these creators got philosophical with how they used to construct some of these episodes. Well, also shout out to Scub for how he's explaining it. But some things you would never think, like a candy wrapper. I'm just thinking it's like plain old, same old SpongeBob shenanigans. Like, what?
outside, Squidward decided to play his clarinet instead. But knowing Squidward, something was bound to happen. And that something was a very familiar noise from outside. Squidward angrily looked to see what all the commotion was. SpongeBob was playing, doing all sorts of things with the paper. And after a while, Squidward found himself spying on SpongeBob, mocking him while doing so. But SpongeBob was having way too much fun to even notice. He was having so much fun, in fact, that Squidward even felt a little envious, a feeling which he took back instantly. After all, why would he want to play with a silly piece of paper? He went back.
Oh gosh, this also just shows you how much certain people can do way more with less. Perfect example of this: lockdown, COVID times. Yo, the types of things that people were doing during lockdown out of boredom. Absolute cinema. Yeah, people need to be studied, dude. People need
Back
to
inside
be
and
studied.
tried to enjoy himself again, forgetting all about the paper. But this time, when he heard SpongeBob laugh again, he didn't look annoyed. He looked sad. This sadness kept reoccurring every time he heard SpongeBob laugh. Finally, he decided he was going to have more fun than SpongeBob, to prove to him that the paper was not fun. But in reality, he was really only trying to prove it to himself. And he really did try. But SpongeBob just seemed happier, probably because he was. After a couple of failed attempts, Squidward broke. He instantly demanded his paper back. But there was a small problem. SpongeBob had promised Squidward he wouldn't give it back, and SpongeBob wouldn't break a promise. So Squidward thought for a second and decided he was going to get the paper back by bartering, hoping to eventually convince SpongeBob. Squidward started offering item after item, eventually also giving up his house. But SpongeBob couldn't.
Damn. And that's what I'm saying. You don't know the true value of something until you've lost it. That's the saddest thing about life in some certain cases.
Accept. Until finally, Squidward had even given him his shirt, trading everything he owned for what he once called garbage.
Which is crazy. Like, now you're gonna go off trading your whole life for something that someone else has. Like, where's the sense of self-value there?
SpongeBob accepted. He didn't even want the other stuff. He only wanted Squidward's shirt. But Squidward didn't care. He let him keep everything because he finally had the paper. Only there was now a problem. When Squidward returned to what was left of his home, he tried playing, but something was different from when SpongeBob played with it. It wasn't fun for him. And as Squidward looked over at everything he gave up for the paper, he realized what he had just done. He gave up everything for what he once again believed was a piece of garbage. What this episode is getting at is quite literally, one man's trash is another man's treasure. But there's an added element here. You see, the paper was neither
Got that right.
treasure. The trash, metaphorically speaking, is Squidward's mentality, and the treasure was SpongeBob's. SpongeBob didn't see a simple paper. SpongeBob is so simple that even a paper was hours of entertainment for him. Looking at Squidward, he couldn't enjoy himself doing all the activities he considered fun, which was why it was no surprise when he later didn't have fun with the paper either. What this episode is really about is how a simple shift in perspective is all it takes to go from this to this. And it's really up to us to make that shift. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget.
I don't lie, that was a fire video. What I was also getting at on that last episode, well, something that I've also come to a realization for quite some time is how you can look at somebody else's life and have certain type of envy or even wish you had their life, looking at it from the outside thinking, oh damn, all of that looks, fun and life looks so easy. But then when you're actually put in their shoes, like the tables turn. And like, sure, some things may have its perks, but the downside is how you don't see the amount of turmoil and like hardships those people or that life may take. So honestly, the best thing is to just appreciate what you have, regardless of whether, things are looking bad. At least appreciate the good things in your life. But yeah, dude, like I said, cartoons from back in the days, nah, they were different and hit deep the older you get. Shout out to Scub also for the way he explained it. I think he goes through more topics like that in his channel, so y'all should definitely check his page out. And without further ado, if you haven't, like, comment, and subscribe. Till next time.